The news story breaking this morning was that Secret Service agents assigned to defend President Biden's granddaughter, Naomi Biden, opened fire late last night on a group of people who were attempting to break into an unmarked Secret Service car in the Georgetown neighborhood. They said they saw 3 people attempting to break into that parked, unmarked vehicle. The group was caught breaking a window of the SUV. One agent opened fire. Nobody was shot, according to the Secret Service, and the group quickly fled in a red car. So not even having Secret Service protection is a guarantee that the carjackings will go down. And then, of course, you have agents opening fire. I'd like to know more information about this. How come they didn't hit the guy? And then they got away? How'd that happen? Well, for more on all of this and just sort of the general state of crime in the nation's capital, we turn to our friend Gregg Pemberton. He's the chairman of the D.C. Police Union, and he joins us now. Greg, good to have you with us, sir. Thank you.
Vince, thanks for having me.
Well, it appears nobody's immune to this. Even Secret Service agents will have their cars broken into.
Yeah, this is just another tragic example of just how brazen criminals have gotten in the city with leadership like the city council, who have completely eliminated and eroded all of what used to be public safety in the city. We now have folks that are breaking into what is obviously, you and I, traverse the city. Every time you see one of these Secret Service vehicles, you hear the word unmarked. You think, well, maybe you can't tell what it is. These Secret Service vehicles are very obviously law enforcement vehicles with government tags, and there's no question that that's exactly what that is. And now we have people who are breaking into these vehicles because they just know there's no consequences. And, keep in mind, this is in Georgetown, one of the most affluent neighborhoods we have in the city. So this is just another example of how bad it's gotten and how brazen these criminals are.
So is that the way it works? So if a group of people try and steal a car, they're thwarted by federal law enforcement officers. They jump into an escape car, a getaway car, a red vehicle, they say. They can just get away? I mean, I would think that the normal thing would be that law enforcement would chase them, or that Secret Service one of them might give chase, to leave the others to protect the protectee, call in local law enforcement. What happens? Can you even chase these guys?
Well, I can't speak for the Secret Service and what their specific policies are, but what I'll tell you is that when the Metropolitan Police Department, we don't have enough officers to go around and chase every vehicle, and even responding to a situation like this, unless there's a police officer right there on the corner. We're short 500 cops right now. It's almost impossible to get somebody to show up within that kind of time frame where they can actually give chase. But even to give chase, the city council has placed all these restrictions and all of these laws that make it absolutely untenable for police officers to give pursuit, even in cases like this where someone's broken into a Secret Service vehicle, with, presumably to try to get whatever weapons might be inside. So this just goes to this idea that the city council has just made it impossible for police officers to go out and do their jobs, regardless of the circumstances. And this is a perfect example that you see a affluent neighborhood. These are Secret Service law enforcement agents. Their vehicles getting broken into, and we can't even catch these guys. It's a remarkable situation.
Greg, help me understand this, because we've talked about this a bit on the show, that police officers are very restrained from chasing bad guys. It's gotten so bad the Washington Post editorial board recently said that police should be allowed to chase criminals again, which is it's just unbelievable that we're even having this conversation. What are the restrictions on cops and being able to give chase?
Right now, the way the law is written, and keep in mind, this has all been updated through this Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Act that I've told you and your listeners about dozens of times, that basically says that the way that the police department judges whether or not a use of force or police pursuit is justifiable is through this rubric called the totality of the circumstances, meaning that they can use facts that weren't available to the officer at the time that they began the pursuit to actually rule the pursuit unjustified. And then once that happens, the officer is likely going to be put up for termination and could lose his or her job. So the restrictions are so onerous that it incorporates facts that wouldn't be available to the person engaging in the pursuit. And this is what's just so completely asinine about how these laws were written, is that they make it so that it's literally impossible to do the job.
And the criminals know this. I mean, this has got to be an obvious detail. They must know that there's no likeliness that D.C. police are going to chase them when they steal a car.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they brag about this. This is what they tell officers when they pull up on the corner. We know you can't do anything to us, and even if you arrest us, we'll never go to jail. So why should I listen to anything you have to say or tell me to do? This is the dynamic that exists in the District of Columbia, where criminals have been empowered to do whatever they want, and victims have been thrown under the bus.
Greg, how long have you been with the D.C. Police?
18 years.
18 years. And have you ever seen it like this?
This is the worst I've ever seen it, and this is the lowest number of police officers I think we've ever had, at least going back 50 years. And the crime is completely out of control. And not only is it out of control, but it's spreading to every corner in every region of the city because of the prosecutions and the lack of police officers in the city. As you just stated a minute ago, criminals know they can get away with anything. This is why they walk into stores and take whatever they want. This is why they, break into a Secret Service vehicle to try to get the weapons out of it. It's because they know that even if they get caught, nothing will ever happen to them, and the likelihood that they'd even get caught in the first place is low. So until we start to change these dynamics so that we can actually start putting handcuffs on people and bring them into the criminal justice system, which then takes these allegations seriously, these situations are going to continue to happen, and crime stats are going to continue to get worse.
So we've seen reports here in the last few weeks that you've got CVS drugstores in the district who've been replacing toilet paper, actual toilet paper, with photos of the toilet paper. And you take a photo and you have to walk it up to the, you have to go to the front desk and say, I'd like some toilet paper, because that's how bad the theft is. Why is this happening?
Again, it's because none of these folks will ever be held accountable. Even if a police officer catches them coming out of the store and arrests them and charges them with theft, once they get into the criminal justice system, they'll be released right away with no charges, and that's the environment that we live in. But it's not only the chain stores like the CVS's and the Giants that you hear about in the newspaper. Every neighborhood in this city has a corner store, and the corner stores are closing rapidly because they don't have the same sort of exposure that these major outlets do. And so people are walking in there, they just take whatever they want and they leave. And ultimately, these little bodegas, as we call them, just end up closing up shop and moving out of the area. And, you see that with these major retail chains like CVS and Giant as well. And even Walmart is now threatening to pull out of some of these areas. The 8th Street Walmart is closed, and it sounds like some of the other ones are considering as well. So this is, this crime begets crime. And until we can start to send these stats the other direction, the situation is only going to continue to worsen.
Robbery in D.C., reports of robbery in D.C. are up 68% this year compared to last year, just to give a number to that. So do you sense urgency from any of the district's leaders when it comes to fixing this? I feel like I keep seeing Muriel Bowser make remarks in front of microphones, but do you feel that there's urgency to fix any of this?
Well, I think the mayor has been the one that's most vocal about it. I mean, she's been asking for more cops for years. She's been suggesting that the city council walk back some of these policies. I mean, she recently introduced a bill called the Addressing Crime Trends Now Act, which I actually support. I don't think it's a panacea, but I think it starts to move the needle in the right direction. The problem is that all 13 council members on the city council other than maybe Brooke Pinto, are opposing this thing, and they're fighting back against a lot of these policies, and a lot of them are actually encouraged to bring more quote unquote police reform bills forward.
Why?
And
what about what? Why is that? Like why are they protecting criminals? What is the explanation for that?
It's very hard for me to understand because, like you said, homicide's up 32%, robbery's up 68%, violent crime is up 40%, all crime is up 30%. And even if you go around and look at other cities, Chicago's homicides are down 11, New York City down 13, Minnesota down 30, Portland down 17, Los Angeles down 19%. And what have all those cities done? They've all taken a realistic look at some of these quote unquote police reform policies, and they've began to roll them back, and they began to start supporting their police officers and trying to bolster the ranks in their police department. And what they're seeing is those crime trends reversing. Here in the District of Columbia, no one will do that because they don't, God forbid, they would admit that they overstepped or that they made a mistake. And so they're going to cling to these police reform policies all the way to the grave. And I don't know how else to do it other than to tell citizens to stand up and call your council member or go vote them out.
Last year, the D.C. U.S. Attorney Matthew Graves, who is responsible for prosecuting crime in the district, declined to prosecute 67% of all arrests, quite infamously. Do you get the sense, Gregg Pemberton, that pace has changed? Is he prosecuting more crimes now, or is it the same this year?
It does. I think the pressure has affected some change. We're starting to see more prosecutions, and there's some data being released that's allowing people to look and see exactly what's going on inside some of these situations. Even the Office of the Attorney General, which is the prosecutor that handles juvenile crime in the city, seems to be taking some of these crimes more seriously. Now, it's not to what the police officers think would be appropriate, but there has been some movement in the positive direction. The question is whether or not that's going to sustain, or this is just, let me pretend I'm doing something until everyone looks away, and then I'll go back to, business as usual. So, we'll keep our eye on it. We know you will too, but there really needs to be more done in all of these areas. We can't, sort of drip drop our way out of this. We've got to take some major action quickly.
Yeah. Well, Gregg Pemberton, as always, thank you for your time and for relentlessly trying to pursue a better situation for the men and women of the D.C. Police Department and definitely for the city. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.